Welcome to this week's episode of Gods and Monsters by E.E. King, read by me, E.E. King. Each week, MetaStellar is releasing a new episode of Gods and Monsters, both in print and on YouTube in audio. Thank you for joining. And now, episode 25, In the Time of Many Pigeons. Last week, River was attacked. Wang Li Ju was killed, and River was taken to jail. Amimi, a ghost of the Lenape, told Jim the story of her tribe. And now, chapter 73, Jim, Green, New York, 1985, In the Time of Many Pigeons. When Jim returns to Green, he doesn't carry totems with him, only curiosity. He walks unseeing through the historic square, heading directly to the research room at the library. He pulls out a book on pigeons and begins to read. Passenger pigeons. In the 1700s, indigenous peoples competed with pigeons for food, controlling their numbers. When entire native populations vanished, the pigeon populations soared. In the early 1800s, at least one in every 4 birds in North America was a passenger pigeon. As Jim reads, the white pages turn bluish gray. Flocks of clouds, of birds, cloud the paper sky. They cut through the air with the speed and grace of blue meteors. They sing to each other in sweet, clear voices. European settlement led to mass deforestation, Jim reads, and the population plummeted. Pigeon meat was commercialized as food for slaves and the poor. Jim sees large men, red-faced and bearded, tossing out handfuls of grain. His eyes water from the scent of alcohol rising off the page. Rainbow gray birds circle toward the ground, gobbling the grain with abandon. As they totter unsteadily, falling onto the ground, the page flashes with the explosion of gunfire. In other parts of the forest, men are building fires and dampening them with cloths. Smoke rises, clouding the trees. Jim hears the thump of birds hitting the ground. In 1878, Jim reads, 5,000 birds were killed every day for 5 months. He watches a few birds weave their way through the smoke from fire and guns. They fly. Only a few blue meteors wing their way to new trees, bobbing and weaving their heads in a curtailed mating dance. Gathering trees, they weave them into simple nests, but before they settle, Jim hears the blast of guns and sees their bodies plummet. The species went from being one of the most abundant birds in the world during the 19th century to extinct early in the 20th century. Jim sees a single bird huddling in a cage so small she cannot even stretch her wings. The last known passenger pigeon, Martha, named after Martha Washington, died in captivity on September 1st, 1914. Jim buries his hands in his head. He knows what it is like to be alone and caged. Outside, a pigeon bobs and struts in a mating dance. He puffs up his neck feathers, which gleam like jewels in the sun. He swaggers toward the pigeon of his dreams, cooing sweet nothings in the general direction of her ear. The pigeon of his dreams coyly flies 2 feet away. He follows, continuing the dance of love. Finally, she stops. The male bows and pirouettes. Their beaks lock in the avian equivalent of a French kiss. The mating is brief, but they have bonded for life. The male has picked out a hidden nesting site on top of one of the grand Greek pillars of the library. He finds the perfect stick. It is smooth, delicate as a whisper, soft as a kiss. He lays it in front of his lady. She takes it, sealing their love. He brings more sticks, placing them gently beneath her. Theirs is an equal relationship. He would never ask her to do what he will not. When the eggs hatch, both incubate them. Both make crop milk for their babies. It is an old family recipe, semi-solid like pale yellow cottage cheese, much higher in proteins, fats, antioxidants, and immune-enhancing factors than cow or human milk. The pigeons pause in their domestic planning to admire their reflection in the window. Jim sits, staring at the book. On the other side of the glass, so close that if he turned his head, he would see them, so near that if he tapped the glass, they might jump. The pigeons are drawing blueprints for their new home. Pigeons recognize themselves in mirrors, Jim reads, relieved that the book is once more black and white. They can recognize the alphabet and can pick out effective items off an assembly line with more accuracy than humans. Jim smiles, imagining an assembly line staffed with pigeons. Those on break are carefully perusing the classifieds, newspapers clutched in their beak. Pigeons have amazing vision. Within the range of colors visible to humans, they perceive shadows we do not. They can see ultraviolet light. If pigeons were artists, what might they design? Jim wonders. Outside, the pigeons interlock twigs, fastening them with spider webs that glitter like rainbows in the light. They can hear frequencies above and below our range, wind blowing across buildings and through mountain passes, distant thunderstorms, and faraway volcanoes. They can fly up to 40 or 50 miles per hour, as far as 600 miles a day. Their brain is laced with tiny magnetic particles, which helps them navigate using the Earth's magnetic field. Although pigeons are considered by many to be dirty and disease-ridden, there is no evidence linking pigeons to infections in humans. They are one of the few animals that will tolerate the inner city. Jim wonders if caged pigeons read the newspapers that line their coop. After all, if they could recognize the alphabet. Outside, the pigeons continue decorating their new home. Chapter 74, Gabrielle, San Francisco, 1985, Green. Gabrielle is dreaming. He is wandering in a forest of greens. Though still divided, new shades, tints, and hues are coloring his world. Through viridian leaves, an azure sky is lightened by a lemon yellow sun. Gabriel feels more alive and more fragile than he ever has. He feels smaller, yet more connected. Somewhere out of sight, a bird is singing. The music is different than any Gabriel has ever heard. He does not know why. He only knows the sound feels lighter. It is a sound of life, not requiring an answer. It is free. It is the first time Gabriel has heard birdsong. Usually, birds drop lifeless at his feet. Hearing the song, Gabriel is warmed by an invincible summer. He stretches his arms toward the light, but the sky is growing dark with ash. Embers rains down upon him. A man cries, a woman screams, and he can see their faces, although he does not know them. Gabriel wakes, but his dreams stay with him, altering the color of his mind. Chapter 75, River, San Francisco, 1985, Love and Fulfillment. It's already dark when River leaves the jail. Into the sky, like a feathered star, Huck rises. He circles briefly, stretching his wings against the night before plummeting back onto River's shoulder. Hey, River says gently, ruffling the bird's sleek plumage. Huck caws, delicately nibbling his ear. Sorry, fella. I sure make you keep odd hours for a crow. You should be asleep. You, River, says a soft voice behind him. River rolls around. Sharp talons pierce his shoulder. He gasps. Ow, Huck! Huck loosens his grip. Out of the darkness, into the soft glow of a misty street lamp, Pam emerges, glowing like a night sun. Pamela, River breathes. Oh, River, I'm so sorry. I was there. You? Yes, but I was frightened to go to the police. I don't like police. Who does? Did you see anything? He shudders at the memory of Lee June's wolf face. Do you know who? Thanatos was in Bert's with me. We heard a noise, a howl. We looked and saw, well, I don't know what we saw. Pam shakes her head as if to clear the image from her mind. But we recognized you. Thanatos had a gun. He went outside. He fired and fired, but nothing seemed to affect the... She shudders. I don't know what that thing was, but it seemed not to feel the gun. I had a silver bullet. It was a keepsake given to me by... I always carried it with me. I don't even know why I thought of it, but anything seemed worth a try. And it worked. Then we heard the sirens, the police. We didn't know what to do, how to get rid of the gun. We figured you couldn't get blamed. After all, you were attacked. So we put it in your hand, and I'm sorry. Pam's voice cracks. What? River begins, but Pam doesn't even hear him. She is looking into the night as if she could see beyond the darkness into the past. She is looking at River as if he is an answer to the future. Thanatos left before the police arrived. I just stayed inside Bert's. No one else was there. Later, Jackson came back. He asked me if I'd seen or heard anything. I said I'd heard something that sounded like a gunshot, but I never went outside. I said I was scared. I guess he believed me. But River tries again. This story seems incomplete, as fragile as glass, as insubstantial as love. Pamela puts her finger to his lips. River takes her hand. She tries to pull away, but he holds her fast. Her hands are surprisingly cold. River feels his heat draining away. Pamela, you're freezing. I'm always cold, she murmurs. River wraps her in his arms. Huck gives an indignant caw and flutters up to a lamppost. Pamela tips her head back and laughs. River is irresistibly drawn to kiss the white, flawless arc of her neck. It is as fresh and as unspoiled as new snow. Their eyes meet, lips open, tongues caress, body presses against body. Hands are urgent. Pamela gasps. River fumbles with her clothes. Come home with me, he murmurs. A few taxis, yellow smudges in the fog, wait, parked at the street's end. Pamela and River tumble into one. River gives his address to the driver. The silent fog whirls like ghosts around each street lamp, but they do not notice. They are not watching. They are kissing deeply, urgently. River thrusts his tongue into Pamela's mouth. It is cool and sweet as spearmint. She whimpers softly. Once inside his apartment, clothes dissolve like dreams in daylight. They fall into his bed. Pamela's body is white, alabaster, perfect. Afterwards, they fall asleep in each other's arms. as if the night could bring nothing more sweet than dreams. Chapter 76, Gabrielle, San Francisco, 1985, A Little Night Music. When Gabriel plays his Chopin and Debussy to the orchids, it sounds wrong. It is what he has always played, the identical composers, the same pieces. But now the music seems flat and slow. He doesn't know why. It is flat, Ryo says. One of the little-known benefits of being dead. We all have perfect pitch. But as usual, perfect or not, Gabrielle cannot hear him. The bird song from the night haunts Gabrielle's waking hours. The sweet, clear, unremembered memory clouds his mind. His world, simple and uncluttered, is becoming murky. A swimming pool left unchlorinated grows algae, mosquito larvae, eventually attracting frogs, and perhaps even a few fish that flash like crystals beneath murky waters. It is alive and sometimes beautiful, but never, never clean. Thank you for joining. Join us next week when, ever since River first saw that small white baby, cold and beautiful as a moonbeam, he has felt apart, marked, alone. That is why it never surprised him to hear ghosts in the wind. That is why it is no surprise now to find himself alone again with only Huck for company. Huck and the fragrance of Pamela that clings to the bedding, sweet as love, enduring as memory. Thank you for joining us. See you next week.